Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Packer Universe Podcast. We're a Green Bay Packers fan podcast that brings you topical and relevant Packers news along with our most humble, subjective opinions. This is episode 268. We're recording this on a Wednesday, April 24th, 2024. It is draft day tomorrow in Detroit, and I've got Ren here in the studio with me to, give you guys a little preview of what we're going through right now. I'm your host, Tay, and like I just mentioned, in the studio is our one and only
Ren. What up, Tay? In the studio, purposely or by accident, I don't know. We're doing episode 268, whether you wanted to or not.
Yes, you get it.
A little miscommunication, but hey, it's me and Tay. You wouldn't expect anything but that. So I am here. We're going to do a short one because you know what? Everybody, Tay, you, me, everybody, this is like Christmas Day.
Yes.
It is. The draft is like, it's so exciting. What's under the tree tomorrow, Friday, and then Saturday afternoon.
It's like 3 days of Christmas.
I mean, they're like, but on the other side of that, the way I feel, and as I get close to this, I've heard about the names. I know the names I like. And there are a lot of them. And it just kind of like, it's a disappointment to me because I know all these guys.
A disappointment?
All these guys. You think could be a Packer. And
they're not.
This guy's a Packer. That guy's a Packer. That guy's a Packer. That guy's a Packer. I want that guy. I want that guy. I want that guy. I want that guy. Give them all to me.
You want all the guys.
And the reality is 1, 2, maybe 3 of these guys that have been talked about are going to end up with the Packers at pick 25, 41, and 58.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe not one of those names you really liked. And inevitably, it ends up being a little bit of like the excitement is the buildup.
Yes.
But the draft picks are at times a little bit of a letdown. Occasionally Brian Gutekunst throws you a little curveball, and then you're left with a little disappointment.
I hear you, and I'm always ready for that now. But I think in the last few years, Ren, we have come a long way, and we've kind of changed things. The Packers have changed things a little bit. When we were under Ted Thompson, it was kind of a disappointment.
It was going to be pretty like boilerplate, boring. There's
always a reach. There was like a reach in 1 or 2 first, second round. You're like, what? Like who? And that was really disappointing. And that's what you're talking about.
Unfortunately, as good as Ted was, Tay, in the waning years, it went on a little too long.
It did.
The change should have been made probably about 2 to 3 years, faster than.
But now you get Brian. He's almost like it's like fresh blood. I don't even think we know how good we have it right now with him. The last 2 drafts, kind of our home runs,
big time, hit it out of the park in 2022 and 2023.
And now, from my perspective, you have this 2024 draft here with 11 picks. And you don't really have super glaring hole needs that you need to plug now. It's all like, yeah, we need a safety, we need a linebacker, we need some O-line depth. Yeah.
We need a running back or 2.
But that's depth. We have 2 starting running backs. So we're in a position now that I'm just like really stoked about. And I hear you about the like getting disappointed and you get ready for it. But this year is a little different to me. I don't feel that. I feel like, these picks are going to come over the next 3 days. And we're going to have to do some research and find out about them. But in the end, it's like, even if he misses on them, if some of these players are duds, it's like, okay, well, that happens all the time anyway.
Yep.
And we're in a position where that doesn't affect us, I don't think, as much as it has in past years when you're like, we needed all these players to hit and they didn't. And then you all those years we wanted a wide receiver and we needed this, we wanted that, go up and get this guy. This year's different to me. Those kind of sentiments are not there for me, and I'm enjoying this. I like it.
Oh, it's fun because whatever ends up being is being. I mean, obviously, the big, sweaty old linemen are kind of boring. They're always boring,
True.
Right? But they're super important. The old adage, it's said over and over again until you're, blue in the face about it that, games are won and lost in the trenches. And that's factual in the NFL. If you don't have a good O-line or good D-line, you're going to have some problems because that's going to leak out to your, level 1, level 2 pieces. So yeah, it sets up pretty well because, the Packers have 11 picks and they can, hey, we had Brian on Monday. Did you have any takeaways from that presser? I certainly have a few that stood out to me when he talked about it.
I think I tweeted it out when I heard it right away. I was listening to him. I actually caught it in 2 different parts, but he said basically that their draft board was done like as of Monday. Like the next 3 days, they're not going to be changing it much. They've done their research, they've done their work, everyone's put in their time, and they're kind of just ready to go. And I was like, wow, they are done. At the beginning of the week, they're not cramming, they're not stressed. They've got their stuff set.
Yep.
And to me, that's great because, in theory, every other team is the same way. Like they've done all the research, they're ready, but I'm sure there's teams out there scrambling still and trying to do last minute work here.
If they are, they weren't prepared in the first place. And I think that's what Brian's saying.
Yeah,
like we're done.
Super
prepared. We're going to get some rest and we're not going to overthink this thing. We have done it.
Yeah.
We have put our pen to paper, probably 1,001 times since we started preparing for this last April after the previous draft, and all the work our scouts and our department have done. And we're confident with the work we put in. And I think it's great. There's no reason once you get to that point and you're set to overthink it, be like, well, maybe, you get like a day away. Are we maybe wrong? Like, no, stick with your gut. It was right. 362 days previously leading up to that point. Why let the next 3 affect it? You put in the work, do it. I think it makes 100% sense what he said, being, set and ready to go.
What did you take away from that press?
One of the big talking points was him saying, I wish we had 13, 14 picks.
Oh, yeah, he wants more.
So,
more than 11.
Hey, again, they talk about the draft. It's huge. It'll lead to the next point, but, more swings of the bat, the better chance you have to, instead of hitting a single, to hit a double, hit a triple, and on that goes. And he mentioned that 1.67 guys from a draft get a second contract with a team.
Wow.
So you're talking out of a singular draft, Tay, less than 2 are going to get a contract with the team. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Yeah. Like, how do they build rosters? I don't even know how it works, Tay.
Undrafted free agents, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, the bottom half of drafts and undrafted free agents and rosters are filled with guys like that. That's why the average NFL player is in the league less than 3 years, and some of the quarterbacks push that number up. But the reality is, the NFL is, a short, limited time for a lot of guys. So, be smart with the money you get, play your cards right, listen to, the smart people around you to play your cards right, to not blow your money, and set yourself up for life, because you can, if you play it right. I found those things very interesting. You talked about people like Cooper DeJean and what does he see him as? And because somebody's going to ask him, and of course they did, because he's so Packersy Packer, right? Are they going to go to the well 2 years in a row with another Iowa guy? Yeah. Obviously Van Ness to DeJean, possibly. But, I thought he was pretty candid. I thought it was one of the better pre-draft Brian pressers.
You know why? Because there wasn't any drama surrounding any of it.
No, he's probably like feeling like this is my team now.
Yeah, this is
like I'm free of everything. I was free last year before
sort of,
but just became free, and now he's just like, I'm living this
Aaron was gone,
new free thing. I'm like, he's just like feeling his feels, man. Brian is feeling himself big time.
Well, I think it was Ken Engels. I saw him say this a couple times on Twitter in the last week that if they pick all 11 picks, they still have room for like 7 undrafted free agents, like on the 90-man roster or something.
Yep.
That's great. That aligns exactly with what the Packers want to do.
Oh, big time.
So he's asking, or he's saying to the public, we have 11, but I want 12, 13, 14, like give me all the picks, because that's what's going on right now. We are still building that foundation from last year and the year before to this thing that we're going to be seeing in the next 5 years. And it's fun. It's exciting for that, because this is the ingredients, right?
Yeah. And his ingredients, Tay, I mean, you mentioned 22 and 23 draft. There are so many young guys and so much competition in these rooms. And he looks at it and goes, wow, this, the way I've done this really breeds some really stiff competition. And the more guys I have in each room, the better they're going to make each other, pushing each other to be the best version of themselves. Because it's really the guys who are going to put in the time, the work, and the effort that are going to get through and past. And he sees that. Again, the more guys he can add to each individual room, the more success they're going to have as a football team. And I think that's a fantastic philosophy to go by. And again, 22 and 23 with the rooms, especially you talk about the pass catching room last year, them growing together is proof in the pudding. It's there. Put them all in there, throw them up against the wall and say, hey guys, the guys that work the hardest, the guys that spend the time in the playbook, those are the guys going to get there. You show us if you want it or not. And those guys will rise to the top. So
I have to call back to our last episode. We had Rob Domofsky on from ESPN. That was great.
Super fun.
It was a video broadcast. Go check it out on YouTube if you haven't yet, or you can check it out in podcast form. Packer Universe podcast, obviously. But it was today's Wednesday, so I think it was Monday. They did have that ESPN live draft, and he was on.
They did,
and he called it. And his I don't know if you haven't seen that, go check it out. Rob's got like a 30-second blurb in his pick and his explanation for the pick, and he picks the Packers selecting cornerback Cooper DeJean.
DeJean, Tay, why do you got to do that to me? You just want to. Yep. You just want to say it wrong. I know.
So that was great. I think that's a great. I think that's a safe, consistent Packers type pick, and I think Rob is that is a very good guess. I think that seems to me to be kind of the Packers player because he's a little flexible. He's from Iowa. They're gonna go. I think they're gonna go defense, right? That sort of thing. So yeah, great pick by Rob. But let's piggyback off of that. I asked you the question today, and I kind of put out on some of our social medias what you and I think are going to happen in this second round.
Yep.
And you got back to me, and I kind of posted that on social media. But I've got it here in front of you, what you kind of told me. But I wanted you to kind of talk about that with yourself because you and Rob kind of have a lot in common, don't you, Ren?
You know, obviously Cooper is the most mocked Packer. And he has been. It seems like he's moving up the draft board, so this may not be available to them at 25. In Rob's case, and their mock on ESPN with all the beat writers from every team, it worked out. In Rob's case, easy pick for the Packers to make. Going through this and hearing from so many people today over the last now 3 weeks, I've been inundated with all the names at all the positions. So much so, kind of at the top of the show, I was talking about it. There's a lot of guys I really like. I'd like them all be Packers. It's not going to be the case. When they come off the board, you're like, oh, that guy would have been good in Green Bay. Oh, that guy would have been good in Green Bay. Why are they going on you? You get those feelings watching the draft. It's like, it's hard to watch these guys peel off the board. And I'm sure it's the same for Brian and his scouts. I think he mentions something to that end on Monday in his presser, watching guys come off the board. But honestly, Cooper is the perfect scenario with the first pick for the Packers at 25. Because obviously the major change in defense this year with Jeff Hafley, the versatility fits the system perfectly. I think they would use him more as a box safety, but they can use him to play corner. And that's what Hafley wants. He wants that versatility in his defense with that type of player. So, I mean, it's just a match made in heaven, really. And then from there at 41, I said, Edgerrin Cooper's been a guy over the last probably 10 to 14 days I really fell in love with. This is the position in the NFL that teams get wrong the most, which is inside linebacker. It is one of the worst hit rates in the NFL, getting the right one. Taking him early doesn't always end up to be the case, but here's a guy that's bigger than Roquan Smith. Great, just fluidity, sideline to sideline. You pair him with Quay Walker, moving to the 4-3 with Hafley. We know they're super thin at linebacker, Tay, and they need a guy there. And this fits perfectly. Again, first two picks for this new defense with Jeff Hafley are big-time needs. And these are big-time players that would fit big-time in the defense.
Right?
Starters, immediate starters in this defense that would take it a long way. And then you're adding another really good inside linebacker. Lastly, at 58, a lot of the good offensive linemen will have come off the board. Some of that will make us all go, oh, God, I wish he was a Packer. 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 But the reality is you're going to get to 58. One of those guys like, Barton's not going to be there anymore. Obviously, Guyton will have gone a long time before that. These kind of things like a true tackle, not going to be there. But Roger Rosengarten, this is a complete Packers type, mauler, physical, just down and dirty kind of guy because of the quarterback, Michael Penix in Washington. He was a lefty, so he protected his blind side actually at right tackle. That's the way it works when you know you're dealing with somebody who's a southpaw. You got it.
Right.
He doesn't move well in space, so he's not a fluid footwork kind of guy. So he really projects probably to be a guard type in Green Bay. But you get that true Packer type that you can insert at one of the guard positions, give you great depth right away. Maybe he's a starter year one, maybe he's not, but he's going to push in that room, and he is a physical, nasty kind of guy. And I think if you ended up with Cooper DeJean at 25, Edgerrin Cooper at 41, and Roger Rosengarten at 58, the Packers just hit an A+, hit it out of the park. Fantastic draft. I don't think anybody out there in Packer universe, any of the other podcasters, could put it more perfectly than that. I'm patting myself on the back right now. Nice job. I think I think everybody would be over the moon with those three guys taken first.
Yeah. And then you've already kind of tapped into, Friday night, and that's round 2. And then you have round 3 that same night, and we're picking at number 88 and 91. So I love that 5 picks in the first 2 days. Will that be the case and stay that way? We don't know. I guess where I land on all this, Ren, and I kind of glossed over a little bit of like broad strokes, but I thought, I'm looking for them to take the best skill player available. I think I've said this before, and I kind of earlier in the podcast, we're really kind of in a good spot here. That's why, to me, I think they stick at 25. Don't trade, back. Just stick at 25. And the only reason you would ever, I think, trade up for if there's someone that you really want that's going to be gone, and Cooper DeJean, if he's like going to be going,
stop doing that to me.
If he's going to be like gone and that's your guy, yeah, sure, go ahead, go up and get him. That's fine. But I don't think there's any reason to move out of 25. I think there's no reason to move back, because now you're talking about round 2, pick 41. That's not that far back. So there's no reason to trade back and move back. So I want them to stick where they are. I think they have an opportunity here to take the best player available. And that can be whatever. But I think it's linebacker, safety, cornerback, running back, offensive line. Any of that is fine to me, really. I mean, it really is. And I think they're going to hit home runs on offensive line because there's a lot of depth there. There's some other depth, at linebacker, and so I don't know. I'm totally fine with them just picking who they want when they want. There's no rush. There's no urgency to hit it out of the hit a home run, hit it out of the park right away. Waste capital on something you don't need to waste it on. So I'm totally cool with them staying at 25, and I'm kind of just gonna be happy with whatever. I think as long as this player doesn't come out of left field like we've kind of had in Thompson years, sometimes you're like, what? Who is this? Or you get a Kevin King and you're like, I don't know, that doesn't feel right. But whatever.
Because of course it didn't. That was when we started podcasting. It was we had the Watt brother there, a kid out of Wisconsin at a position they needed.
They needed it.
That was like, sell the jerseys, just go do it. It's a Watt in Wisconsin, and he ends up being a potential future Hall of Famer too. Ugh.
So that's what I'm talking about. It's just like I don't see any of that. There's no pressure. I think Brian is exactly in the position he wants to be in. So this is great. I'm looking for, there's position needs that we need, but I'm not even kind of worried about that. I think that'll take care of itself.
Yeah. Sure. And I think you're right. I mean, again, I'm not like my perfect scenario for, the first and second rounds with 41, I see 25, 41 and 58 is a perfect scenario. That's why I call it the perfect scenario.
Yes.
Perfect scenarios don't happen today. That's why you get to say them. But I think it would be a home run, obviously. That said, there's a lot of things could happen. I unfortunately really do feel the trade out coming. We're going to spend our night, staying up, and you and I are going to get on the video to talk about the first pick, and we're not going to do it till day 2. That is the type of thing that I expect to happen tomorrow. Could the Packers, with a Quinton Mitchell and a Tay Ren Arnold, could they really like one of those premier cornerbacks to the point where they say that matters more to Hafley's system and move up quite a bit to get one of them? It wouldn't shock me either. But the more obvious thing to me would be the trade out and add, as Brian said, more picks. Or is that subterfuge? And that's why he said that per Monday, to say he wanted to acquire more picks, because maybe he is going to be getting rid of some of his picks today.
Ooh.
How to tie that all back around and put a bow on it.
Do you think there's any scenario where they trade for a player this year? Like
an existing NFL player.
Yes, an existing.
I really don't see it, because the team is so young, and I really do. The one thing Brian, subterfuge or not, is talking about is adding talent to those rooms and building that competition. I really think he believes in that and subscribes to that way to build his football team. And I think it's a great way to build a football team. So no, I really don't think they're going to bring in somebody I don't think they're in a position to. Had they not ended up with Xavier McKinney, maybe, they'd really be in a tough spot at the moment for a safety that needs to, get in the mix with this new defense. But that said, no, I think they're in a good spot to do and let the board dictate what they want to do based on who comes off in front of them, and then decide, hey, let's pick up some more picks. Let's move up, get a guy we really see as falling, that we really have high on our draft board. And that's always different team to team. But if they have a guy that is falling a little bit and they didn't expect him, like a Tay Ren Arnold, and they got to, they're like, hey, we can get up to 17 and get him, they might do it. So I think it's going to end up being less picks the more, to be honest.
Do you think we're set? This is kind of another broad question. Do you think we're set at quarterback? Do you think the Packers have any inkling about changing quarterback situation in the next 3 years?
We heard Brian say that some weeks back, that he wants to get back to the Ted Thompson, Ron Wolf business of drafting and developing additional quarterbacks on the roster. I don't see that as a bad thing to want to do, but as well as Sean Clifford played, and that he's developing in your system and knows your system behind Jordan right now, I think he could give you a game or two of decent quarterback play to get you maybe a win at 1 out of 2 games or 1 out of 3 games. I don't see why you throw a big wrench into that fire, other than a guy that you maybe take in rounds 6 or 7 that ends up on your practice squad. I think it'd be a mistake.
Sure. Speaking of quarterbacks, Ren, I have to just laugh about this and join in, in the fun here. Zach Wilson gets traded out to the Denver Broncos, who he lands with another couple quarterbacks that are, garbage bargains.
Yeah, it's just going to be like the quarterback
fire.
Carousel in Denver next year, Tay.
So that leads me to bring up the fact that, this has been brought up in the last week, or in the last few days since Zach Wilson's been traded. But the top 5 quarterbacks taken in the 2021 draft, the draft after Jordan Love was picked: Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones. 4 of the 5 are not with their teams that drafted them. Only one is Trevor Lawrence, and
he's been slightly disappointing, I would say. He's been good, but not as good as he was billed as the next coming and the next great quarterback, kind of like when Peyton came out.
I never bought it. I never bought Trevor was going to be that guy. But do you think he's as serviceable as Love will be, or do you think Love will surpass Lawrence?
I think Love is a higher ceiling than Lawrence at this point. I do.
So out of those 5 quarterbacks that were taken first in the first round, 4 of them are traded away to some other team.
And we're about to see 5 come off the board before the Packers pick tomorrow night, Tay.
Oof.
Again in 2024.
Again, I do talk about this a lot, but it's like, thank God the Packers are our team. We've got it right. We've done it the correct way.
Again.
You think the Bears are going to sit Caleb Williams for a year?
Oh, no. Caleb's going straight to the fire, and we love him for it.
It's just like,
just burn this man down.
Good luck.
Yep.
Speaking of the Bears, did you see that today?
I did. I heard about that yesterday. That was going to be the big announcement on Wednesday.
To try to distract from the Caleb Williams draft thing, or what? Why would they do it?
No,
now?
they've been wanting. Okay, so there's been this push with the Bears and the actual city of Chicago and the mayor of Chicago with the Bears moving out. They bought all that land out in Arlington Heights.
Yeah.
They had the old racetrack out there, and they were going to develop this huge thing, was going to bring just massive monies to that area and to build a true kind of like Titletown piece out there. They're not going to have the space to do it in the city proper, but the city was like, hey, no, we have this agreement. There's all this politics behind it. There's all this potential extra money. There's all, these leases to break, et cetera. It's a lot of politics is what it comes down to. The Bears being downtown in the park. I mean, I've been there many times in the museum areas and the Shed Aquarium. And I like that area down the lake. And listen, the Bears in the city of Chicago fancy that as we're a future Super Bowl destination. Mm-hmm. Let's get this thing going. Let's get it right. The Bears can essentially still sell that land and do whatever they want, under the Bears, incorporated and make money. I'm sure they could. So that doesn't mean anything. We'll see if they finally dot their I's, cross their T's on this thing. It looks like that's the direction it's headed. And the Packers will be the one lone remaining NFC North team playing outdoors.
When I saw that, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool for them, I guess, and for football in general. That is a storied franchise. We have to give them some concessions here. I mean, the team's going to still suck.
No, let's always give the Bears their storiedness, because they did once upon a time float. George Halas made sure the Green Bay Packers continued to exist.
Yes.
So we are ever thankful that they respected the rivalry all the way back then to make sure that the Green Bay Packers never disappeared.
It's true. I mean, we do have, an alliance with them, so to speak, of a fraternity.
Regard. Yes, of hate and love. Yes,
but their team's going to still suck, even though they have a nice,
that's
new,
great. I'm glad they suck.
Domed thing down there. But what I think they're doing right is they're emulating a lot of other stadiums and stadium districts around the league, especially ours.
They won't be able to do quite that much because of the museum campus down there. What are you going to knock down the museum and the Shed Aquarium? I mean,
no. There's still room. What they're going to do is and I actually like this. They're taking the old stadium down, but they're leaving those columns.
Right. The columns are cool. Yeah.
And then that's great. Like, you got to keep that, good for them. And they're going to make some green space, some gathering space. And I think that's really smart too. You want to bring people down there, bring gatherings down there, all that stuff. People still wonder about the parking, and I don't know about it.
Yeah, the parking in that area of Chicago, and I've stayed literally right across from the park, and I don't know what you do, Tay. It's not good. It's not an easy thing to do, and you pay a lot for it.
Yeah. So there's questions there, but I guess one thing I can pat them on the back for is this plan. I think that's good. Keep it downtown. Keep it by the lake. Keep that storied area there with the old field in place with those columns representing what it was, and just build around that and have a community. So I think they did it right with that. And we'll see if it actually happens or not.
Yeah.
So
nobody really knows at this point. So inevitably it was going to happen because Chicago knows what that money means as far as a future, not once but multi-time Super Bowl venue. Although I firmly believe it will not be used, not quite nearly enough, like once every 10 years in comparison to the LAs, the New Orleans, the Phoenixes, the Miamis, the warm weather cities that are going to get those Super Bowls instead. Yeah. And that's the way it goes nowadays.
And if I'm a Chicago Bears fan, I don't want it to go out to Arlington Heights. Like, I wanted it to stay downtown. Like, that would be me personally.
It would, for a fan perspective, be a lot easier in and out for all the fans in the Chicago area to access Arlington Heights and all the things they could build out there, as opposed to putting this thing, which is very hard to get to, on the lake. It's not easy to get down there, Tay. You get stuck. It's expensive. It's hard to move about, and moving those people, they're going to have to find better ways to do it.
Yeah, I know. But it's kind of piggybacks off the situation we've got with Green Bay and the Green Bay Packers. It's like, you guys, you're not moving the team. We all know that, but it's like, there's always a threat. It's like
The Packers aren't ever going anywhere.
But like where you're gonna go, Madison, Milwaukee, like that would
never.
That would just kind of ruin things a little bit.
But Arlington Heights is technically Chicago's such a huge city. Tay, you can call it Arlington Heights, you can call it whatever. It's Chicago. They'd still be the Chicago Bears. The Packers, the way Northeast Wisconsin, even if they would end up in North Appleton like they almost did in 01, they would still be the Packers too because it's just south of Green Bay. But it would be a little different because it's just the topography and the way this state area sets up as opposed to Chicago being such a massive metro area.
Well, everyone out there in Packer Universe, let us know what you guys think of the Bears' new plan of action and if it thoroughly emulates what we're doing up here in Green Bay with Titletown and keeping it real up here. So, yeah, let us know about that. Ren, let's get out of here. I just wanted to bring up the fact that our plan is you and I get together on video after the first pick, whatever that might be, and just do a little review, a little reaction, our first takeaway of the draft. So watch for that tomorrow, or it could be Friday night. I don't know.
We might be doing this thing, might not happen tomorrow night. It might happen 3 times, not 3 times, five times on Friday night. It could with rounds 2 and 3. So we just, bam, we're doing one, bam, we're doing one, bam, we're doing it as they come out and our instant reactions. So it's going to be fun. And Thursday, Friday, the way the NFL did this thing to make this thing prime time, man, they know how to do it. They know how to soak the money out of it and soak our fandom into it. It's
absolutely.
When they switch this thing from, remember years ago, we're waking up on a Saturday. Yeah. I'm sitting on a futon in your apartment and there comes the pick of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And I think we had the same reaction to when they took Jordan Love at the time. We're like, no, no, we need guys for Favre. It was just one of those things. So it's amazing how much has changed in less than 20 years, Tay.
Our consensus, I think, though, is that we think the Packers will pick a defensive back tomorrow first, hopefully. Namely the cornerback position. But we will see if we're right. We'll see if we're happy about that. And so look for us tomorrow with our first takeaway reaction to the draft, first round. So, Ren, thanks for coming over and joining me for one last episode before the NFL draft tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll pump this thing out, Tay. We could have called this episode 267 and a half, Tay, something like that. Instead, until episode 269, Tay, on the pup list.